if you go in and put a lot of easy to install wireless vibration and temperature sensors, I could literally guarantee you any industrial operator will save more money in the first 3 hours than it cost you.
Hello world, Maura about Asset Management Visionaries shaping tomorrow under the umbrella of the Association of Asset Management Professionals. We have a super guest today, Jeremy Franks. How are you doing, Jeremy?
I'm doing fantastic.
Well, Jeremy has been with KCF Technologies. He's the CEO, but I'm not going to say much. Jeremy, tell the world who you are.
I'm Jeremy Frank. I am the CEO, co-founder of KCF Technologies. I've been doing it for a long time. We started our company along with Professor Koopman. Gary Koopman created the Center for Acoustics and Vibration at Penn State University, and that's where the company was born from about 25 years ago, and that's what I've been doing ever since.
That's amazing. And tell us a little bit about KCF.
Well, our whole mission is to build technology. We're a technology company, and to build technology that elevates workers, to solve really important problems at as great of an impact and scale as we can. And we have, for the last 15 years, been very focused on the industrial machine health problem, which is where you live. And in that space, our whole vision for the future is to achieve an industrial world with zero downtime, zero injuries, and zero waste. And that's what we're really very passionate about.
Definitely. I know you're so passionate about people, and we will talk in a moment about that. Tell a little bit your perspective. What is asset management?
Well, I guess asset management, first of all, that's not a term that I spend a lot of time in or thinking about. You know, we talk about machine health optimization. So I'm a mechanical engineer, I'm a PhD. So we really came at into this space a different way than a lot of people come in, which is more through the professional route. We came in through the academic route. And so my PhD is actually in mechanical engineering and really in optimization and AI, as I was talking about. And so we came into this world after doing work for about 10 years in other applications. I don't so much and I've never really been personally responsible for asset management, managing assets. What I'm passionate about is eradicating the root cause of all the things that happen to assets that I suppose you could say cause them to be managed poorly. And that's what we're all about. It's really about the engineering phenomenon and the root causes that lead to the symptoms, that lead to the failures, that lead to all these terrible consequences that all industrial operators struggle with.
Very, very clear. And you know, like you mentioned, the zero injuries, zero accidents, that's what we're striving. And asset management is key in this role. Now, tell us on the AI and the digitalization, where do you see that we are heading, in what direction we're heading?
I think there's two important messages in regard to AI. And I would say, first of all, I have mentioned this to both you and Terrence a few times. I think it is right and important to focus on it. It's important enough to highlight and draw a lot of attention to AI. Even though there's already so much attention drawn to it and you run the risk of tiring people out, it's worth it because it is that important. Now, I will say it really intersects with our work in two ways. The first one is something we've been doing for a long time. As I kind of just said, my PhD essentially was in AI. And one of the things I sometimes like to say is that I was doing AI in the late 1990s, which is the third time AI was popular. There were two big waves of AI that had preceded that, very truly. And it is literally what I was working on, nonlinear optimization algorithms to attack complicated, big problems. And we've been in the industrial world for the last 15 years, and we have been applying those same techniques with large data flows on machine health, vibration data and temperature data and lots of other types of data. And we have been applying AI algorithms to those applications for a long time. That continues to grow and continues to be more effective and impactful, and the data flows are greater, but it hasn't changed that much. So that's the first one. The second one is completely different, and this is the one that most people talk about, which is the new AI, generative AI, large language models, and all the things that impacts. We also are being affected by that just like everyone, and that's changing very quickly. And the way that that's affecting our work is mostly in terms of the subject matter expertise. If you roll the clock back 10 years, or especially 20 years, there was one of the challenges in this industry, the reliability industry, was that there were a small number of people who had the qualifications to optimize machine health. Vibration technicians, level 1, 2, 3, 4 certifications and a body of knowledge. And then more on the technology academic side, spending a bunch of years getting a mechanical engineering degree, a PhD, is another way to get that knowledge. It was relegated to a small number of people, and so the scale was harder. The way that I think that AI affects I don't just think, I know, because our software team built this into our software within just a couple of months of when ChatGPT first came out in the spring of 2022. All of that knowledge, you can train a dedicated version of ChatGPT or any of these, which one you choose. We happen to go with that one. You can train the generative AI on whatever you want it to. We trained it on our entire body of knowledge. So we have what we call the KCF Academy, which is all of the things we've learned in the industries we serve, specific things in the wastewater industry and the pulp and paper industry, the steel industry, the auto manufacturing industry, all the details about machines, pumps, fans, motors, cranes, all the details about the specificity of vibration analysis, and all the details of mechanical engineering and all the details of fluid dynamics and the other things that affect machines. It's all in there. So you can literally ask it any question and it will give you a specific answer. And that's just a game changer. It makes every person the equivalent of a end of career experienced vibration technician, reliability expert, and mechanical engineering PhD, if you use it correctly. So it's in that regard, it is very new and it's a game changer. Although I will also add to that from my point of view, even though those things are really game changing and important, it hasn't really been the holdup. And I'm a technologist, and my business delivers technology into all these great, manufacturers. But the holdup for a number of years, as I think you and your organization know very well, it's more about culture and adoption of the technology and change management. The technology has been there to use for a long time.
That's a really good answer, because now we're diving into the change management and people. I've been looking at your work and you always express, hey, it's all about people, or people first. Tell us a little bit about your take on that with the clients that you're visiting. What is holding them up?
Well, what's holding them up is human nature, I think. Unfortunately or fortunately, I think human nature is what inspires passion and inspires action, but it also can inspire the status quo, or at least it can lean people to maintain the status quo. And it's natural. It's natural for people to do the same thing tomorrow that they did today. It's the most natural thing, in fact. And so that it's not good. But there's no boogeyman. There's no bad reason why that happens. It's just human nature. And on top of that, the world that we serve is very challenged. It's a difficult environment to operate into. The workers that need to go into those industries aren't going into those industries as much as we need them to. They're not inspired. It's dangerous, dirty work sometimes. And so, when you're overwhelmed, it's that much more difficult to adopt something new and drive change. It's just that's the reality that people are in. And so now the flip side of it is, I think people can be very inspired by human nature. It's something I think you do so well at Reliability Web. And I'll go back to my personal inspiration. So my father, worked in similar types of problems. His first job was working for Sikorsky, the helicopter company. And he was actually in Vietnam during the Vietnam War doing reliability on Sikorsky helicopters in Saigon. And ultimately went on to have a career focusing on industrial cranes, and then started his own business doing consulting and basically investigation of accidents and forensic testimony about industrial accidents and other high profile accidents. And so I worked for him when I was growing up, and he was a mechanical engineer. And his father, by the way, my father's name is John Frank. His father, Clayton Frank, was a factory worker. He was a union factory worker at what was at the time Westinghouse's largest factory in central Ohio, Mansfield, Ohio, and lived the life of an industrial worker. And so those two things overlapped. My grandfather actually died the year I was born, so I never got to know him very well. My father passed away 10 years ago. But the inspiration that comes from them personally for me is a big motivator. But it's actually the things that I learned. So I learned this, you can imagine, as a high school student working for a startup business, essentially. And he never scaled the business. It was really more like a sole proprietorship. But these amazingly interesting case studies. I mean, really, it's depositions because it was a lawsuit because a worker had been severely injured. This is what I did as a high school student. I would read a deposition this thick about a worker. It still brings tears to my eyes because I would read a deposition about a worker who was working in a chemical plant. One of the ones I remember, the pump that he was sitting near caught fire. The bearings probably caught fire, exploded, caused a catastrophic explosion and terrible burns to his body. And that was the lawsuit. And my job was to summarize a deposition that thick down to the important points about what was the problem, what was the consequence, could it have been avoided, who was to blame. So for me, and then you can, that was a formative experience, of course, and you take that all the way from then till now that I'm actually in a position to make a positive impact on those things, it's incredibly rewarding, and that's part of why I'm so passionate about it.
Definitely, yeah. One is way too many, as you're mentioning, and striving for that culture of safety and that culture of reliability is essential. Jeremy, in the world, there are a lot of the part of the audience that are listening, and they don't know really where to start the journey, specifically on digitalization, where they should start.
Well, perhaps I'm a bit biased because I run an industrial Internet of Things company that provides technology, and the core of our technology, which is the core of our expertise, is vibration monitoring. But putting my bias aside, it is vibration and temperature with wireless, easy to install sensors. It is magical. It's a magical tool. And it is the easiest and the most ubiquitous way to start solving the root cause of the machine health problem. The reason for that, I believe, is because it's human. It's very similar to putting your hand on the machine, except that your hand is then there 24/7, 365, never goes away. You're always calibrated, and it's as if you have 10,000 hands. So it's a very powerful tool. When you combine that with the fact that the shocking thing that I've learned over the last 15 years when we've been attacking the industrial problem, and by the way, before that, we were attacking much more complex military type applications that really came out of sort of the work we were doing at the university. So the machine health problem on Black Hawk helicopters on an aircraft carrier in the North Sea. Different machine applications on nuclear submarines. We spent a lot of time working for the US Army developing self-powered smart prosthetic limbs with sensors to make the prosthetic limb components healthier. When we attacked the industrial problem, the shocking thing is even for the very greatest corporations, there is just a jaw-dropping amount of low-hanging fruit. And that's why if you go in and put a lot of easy-to-install wireless vibration and temperature sensors, I could literally guarantee you any industrial operator will save more money in the first 3 hours than it costs you. It happens every time. It's actually quite regular for us to save a customer more money than they spent on it before we leave the premises, because you just find the first most critical motors and pumps and fans that have been blind spots that they've never known what to do. So that is what I would encourage. It's just, we really make it our goal to make it as easy as possible to get value out of using this technology, because again, that's the holdup. The holdup is people using it. It's not about the technology.
And talking about that holdup is also on the education and training, right? What would you suggest to people to dive into asset management?
Well, I would say participate heavily in everything that Reliability Web has to offer is the honest answer. I think you do it better than others in the space. And I think that not only do you do the best training and sharing industry-wide, it's that you also bring passion and energy to it to make it fun. Because frankly, I would tell you, I've spent the first 10 years of my career solving these exotic, neat applications on helicopters and submarines. And the truth is, those things were very interesting technically, but it was a long time before it was going to have impact. We also, however, did other technology development for the Navy, which was underwater systems, basically underwater GPS for Navy divers and underwater robots. That was very different because it was exciting and it was cool. Underwater, we were working with the US Coast Guard and the Norwegian Coast Guard and the Swedish Navy and the port of Singapore and the port of Tokyo, and a number of first responders that are the ones who go out and recover drowning victims when they go through the ice in Minnesota and Wisconsin. Bad things, terrible things sometimes that happen, but the work was just fascinating. This work, this reliability space is actually, should be, in my opinion, I love it. And it's so impactful and it's so important, and I'm just very passionate about it. And it used to bother me until I started getting closer to reliability web that you would go to these types of conferences and you would simply see a very bland, very boring, very mundane approach by someone from a large company that just brought almost no passion to it. And that's what I think is so important. Inspiring people, because they should be inspired. What was the number that Terrence had in his presentation yesterday? 450 people die.
Correct, in maintenance accidents.
And it's about, I know it because I talk about it, it's about 3 million in industrial injuries in total every year in the United States, and about a third of those are industrial in nature. It's the million injuries. How can you not be passionate about that
if
you work there?
Exactly. It's making the work that makes a difference for all of us. Thank you for your kind words, because at the end of it all, it is okay to be excited about reliability and asset management as well. Jeremy, some words of wisdom for our audience related to asset management, digitalization, anything that you want them to activate immediately.
Yes. There is one massive blind spot that I think even still today, most companies just don't realize, and that's why machines actually fail. And it's sort of interesting because I sometimes call us a predictive maintenance company. Predictive maintenance has become a known thing. It's part of the industrial Internet of Things. It's really the de facto use case that's validating the industrial Internet of Things, which is basically smartphone technology in industry. And predictive maintenance is great. We do it all the time. We put sensors on machines and we predict that they're going to fail. But in my opinion, it's actually not the right way to go about the problem. And we've just learned this through experience. The right way to go about the problem is to realize that the vast majority of failures don't need to be predicted because they don't need to happen in the first place. And that's because the root cause that leads to the failure is almost always totally unavoidable. And it's just these huge categories of issues. Improper maintenance being the biggest one, poor lubrication practices. I presented yesterday about a brand new customer wastewater plant. One of the first things that happened while working with this company is a worker over lubricated the bearings because he forgot to take the drain. He just wasn't properly trained or experienced, forgot to take the drain plug out, and inadvertently murdered a 200 horsepower motor that would have caused 5 days of downtime for this plant. I don't have to describe what it would have been doing, but it would have been very messy. People would have had to climb into a confined space in a dryer in a wastewater plant. Terrible situation. The whole thing was just avoided because the AI flagged it right away and solved the problem. That's the pattern. So it's improper maintenance, balance, misalignment. It is operating conditions, pump cavitation, resonance on structures, and it's system configuration things. So I was in the Hydraulic Institute I was on the board of directors for the Hydraulic Institute for about 10 years, which is the Industrial Association of Pump and Motor Manufacturers. They understand this whole problem, but pump systems are actually the single biggest source of the problem and are responsible for a massive amount of unnecessary waste. And all the information is there. It's just those three places: the condition, the care, and the configuration of the systems. We actually call it the 4 C's.
Okay.
If you think about those 4 C's and go attack the problem proactively, you don't need to worry about predictive maintenance because you won't have hardly any failures. By the way, the 4th C, sometimes the system is so flawed that you have to create a new one, but that's rare. It's really the 3 C's.
No, definitely. Thank you. Thank you for the words of wisdom to our audience. We will want to have you next time in another interview. We have so much more to dive in. Remember, for these and more interviews, to check the Association of Asset Management Professionals, social media, Spotify. More to come with Asset Management Visionaries shaping tomorrow. We'll see you next.